In an earlier video, I talked about bullying on the workplace, but what about cyberspace? I'll address that in today's video. Hello, good people. My name is Janice, and welcome to Dignity, the channel that illustrates how human rights impacts our daily lives. If you're new here, welcome. I invite you to check out the playlist marked Most Viewed and ask you to please consider subscribing. I'm going to start this video off with a story about myself. This goes back to when I was in law school. I dropped off some work at a printer, and when I returned to pick it up at the assigned time, it wasn't ready. I was frustrated. And the clerk asked me if I could come back in a couple of hours. My response was, I don't have a choice now, do I? And he didn't say anything to me, but he looked me dead in the eyes. And like they say, the eyes are the window to the soul. And what I saw was pain masked by a stoic look. I remember that because I felt so badly about treating that man that way. I didn't treat him fairly. I did not acknowledge him as a person of value. In other words, I didn't acknowledge his dignity as a human being. What was going on with me had nothing to do with that man or anybody else that I spoke to in that manner. But I do know that since that time, I have looked at myself to understand why was it that I would behave this way. So you might ask, how is that bullying? And what does that have to do with cyberspace? Well, bullying is bullying, whether it's face-to-face or in cyberspace. And there's a lot of it going on here on YouTube. In fact, today marks 1 year since I launched this channel. And I've observed a lot of trolls out here in the YouTube community. But before I continue, I want to share something with you written by Donna Hicks, a doctor who is an associate at Harvard University. She's an expert in dignity, and she became an expert through her work in conflict resolution. Dignity is our inherent value and worth as a human being. Everyone is born with it. It's the glue that holds all of our relationships together. It's the mutual recognition of the desire to be seen, heard, listened to, and treated fairly, to be recognized, understood, and to feel safe in the world. As I said before, I didn't treat that man fairly. And by not acknowledging his dignity, I undermined my own. There's a lot of that going on here on YouTube. I'm witnessing a lot of criticism, a lot of disparaging comments because people do not like what other creators are saying, what they stand for, how they choose to live their lives. Some trolls even established channels for the sole purpose of disparaging other creators. Let me continue with what Dr. Hicks has to say about dignity. It's an expression of who we are. It derives from our doing our best to live as an ethical human being. We live with a nourishing sense of gentle dignity as we become honest with ourselves, kind towards others, and respectful of life in all forms. So I did the work of becoming honest with myself, and it's a lifelong journey. I haven't finished. There are times when I want to lash out at people, and I do a little exercise, and I ask myself, what's the earliest time that you remember feeling this way, and what was going on? There's usually some kind of connection to what I'm feeling in the present and how I felt in the past. Some kind of transgression, some kind of injustice. Someone was undermining my sense of dignity. It was around 1999 when I was a hearing officer for the city of New York and presided over quasi-criminal cases concerning suspended special education students. I had a case of first impression involving cyberbullying. A math teacher shared an email address with her students so that she could tutor them after school. A former student who had the email address sent her messages criticizing her appearance, mocking her religion, and made reference to Nazis. No one knew who the perpetrator was, so his current student decided to befriend the individual. Subsequently, he admitted to her that he indeed had been sending these messages. That was at a time when email was all the rage in the latest form of technology. Since then, 14 states impose criminal sanctions, including jail time and fines on individuals convicted of cyberbullying. You might argue that you have a right to free speech, and that's true. A cyberbullying law in New York State was ruled unconstitutional on freedom of speech grounds. In addition, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 19, acknowledges individuals' rights to free speech. However, Article 29 articulates our duties and limitations as individuals. Item 2 thereof reads, "In the exercise of his rights and freedoms, everyone shall be subject only to the limitations as are determined by law solely for the purpose of securing due recognition and respect for the rights and freedoms of others, and of meeting the just requirements of morality, public order, and the general welfare in a democratic society." I want to bring your attention to, for the purpose of securing due recognition and respect for the rights and freedoms of others. This is a critical matter in the YouTube community, in that the laws have since changed since 1999, and they're in the process of changing. Not only are YouTube trolls undermining own self-respect and dignity, but also putting themselves at risk of criminal legal liability. I'm asking all the trolls out there who are attacking other creators, digging in their past for any obscure, innocuous, so-called transgression to bring to the fore, to try to bring someone down, to lash out at others, to use the likeness and image of their family members, their children, their husbands, other loved ones, in order to try to make a fool of them and tear them down. Gather petitions or to galvanize others to close down a channel because you don't like what somebody has to say. My question to you is, why do you keep watching? YouTube is the second largest search engine to Google. There are plenty of channels out here. You can find something that makes you feel good or that you can learn from. But to engage in an exercise of tearing one another down, we're only tearing down ourselves when we do that. One more thing that she said about dignity. It rests securely on how we are viewing and holding ourselves. What comes out of our mouths is a reflection of ourselves. Our criticisms of someone else is really a criticism of ourselves. And I'll leave you with this last quote. Whenever we honor someone's dignity, we strengthen our own. Until next time, be well and remember to live your life with dignity. Bye-bye.